Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high-level best of 3 between Astrea and Reynor. Reynor as the purple Zerg, Astrea as, the yellow Protoss player is going to get the block down here on Cosmic Sapphire. See the pylon scout into the gateway, a simulator here, pretty standard opener. Astrea has been on a bit of a tear lately, performing very well in the Home Story Cup and showing himself to be one of the best foreign Protoss players, if not just one of the best foreign players in general. Neep also, of course, performing really well as of late. Good run in DreamHack Valencia. I want to say he got top 8 there, maybe even top 4. Ended up losing to Creator 3-2. I want to say that was a top 8 performance. I could be wrong. Raynor, on the other hand, in the most recent DreamHack Valencia, I think got top 4 losing to Maru. In the most recent Home Story Cup, got knocked out by Astrea with a pretty convincing series out of the American. And then lost to Elaser in the lower bracket match as well. Out of the 5 games that were played in that best of 5 against Elaser, Raynor decided to play Protoss, 2 of them, and lost both of those games, giving Elaser a 2-0 lead. As a follow-up, we saw Raynor switch back into Zerg, win 2 games, and then lose map number 5 in a pretty standard Roach versus Roach macro game, by the way. Nothing too fancy there out of Elaser, but yeah. Raynor definitely wanting to revenge himself here on Astrea, who is part responsible for that last poor performance in Home Story Cup. Raynor dropping out in top 12 is might be a nice performance for some people, but for Raynor that is definitely a big disappointment. As we're right over here on Cosmic Sapphire. A map that is one of the more standard maps, I want to say, or at least it plays out as a more standard map. We often go up to 3-4 bases. There's opportunities for run-bys. You have these rocks that, once they get taken down, really opens up a crap ton of other run-by possibilities as well. And despite that, the first 4 bases are definitely easy to defend for the Protoss, as well as for the Zerg player, of course. Relatively small chokes. This goes up a ramp, and this base has a little, well, I'm not even sure what you call it, like a pillar that's in the ground, like a manhole down there, basically. See something spinning around in there as well. Astrea opening up with an Adept Shade in. Second Adept is not being chrono boosted, which means that it's not going to be very heavy pressure coming out of Astrea. Most likely, ooh, I was going to say most likely going to be an Oracle, but actually opens up with a Void Ray. A bit of a switch up compared to what we usually see, not only out of the American player, but out of Protoss players these days in general. The Oracle being the most popular choice in this matchup as the first unit. It forces out very fast spores, and it just adds a little bit of harassment potential, the ability to deny creep, that you don't get quite as much with Void Rays. Void Rays are great for controlling your side of the map, great at denying scouting in the early game, and even at forcing back Overlords, because Raynor can't really spread Overlords to all the dead spaces in this scenario, because if the Void Ray decides to move across the map, the Void will have a field day taking out them Overlords and getting free damage, basically. So yeah, single Void Ray is great, like I said, for defense, but most of the time that is just what it is, defense. Oracle is being constructed here, and now the question is, will we see a second Oracle coming out behind this, or if it's just going to be a single Oracle? If it's a single Oracle, I'm almost expecting a quick Twilight Council in combination with maybe a Forge into a Twilight. I was gonna say maybe with a Robo, or just a Twilight with a couple of added extra gateways for some glaive pressure, some potential Archon drop. Seems like Astrea, though, actually wants to go into, well, this feels like Blink to me. Given how the current meta game in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup is, yeah, that no shot you're gonna get a drone there against Raynor. It's just simply not possible. This Oracle is going to get a single kill, but takes a bunch of hull damage as well. So we see only 49 real hit points remaining on this Oracle. All the shields, of course, have been depleted, but those will come back. The HP will not come back, however, so that is a bit of an issue. Void Ray also took 8 damage into the real life as the shields are regaining, and this is what I was talking about. The problem often with Void Rays is not so much that you necessarily can't deny the creep, because that often also isn't possible with Oracles, but if there's 2-3 Oracles out, all the Queens need to stay put at their bases, and they can't be running around spreading creep. However, if there's only a single Oracle, there's no real threat to the drones whatsoever. A Spore and a single Queen do a fine job defending that. That means that the Queens can push forward, put down more creep tumors, and also defend the forward creep tumors a little more. Raynor follows this up with an Evo Chamber as well as a relatively quick layer, building a couple of blind roaches here, but it seems like Astraea is not going to go into any type of quick aggression, and that means that these roaches are basically built in vain. There's no point to them, and they're cutting into Raynor's drone count, which is rather low, and on top of that the fort base also is extremely late. 5 minutes and 50 seconds. I mean, this is the type of fort base you see if a Zerg takes 9, 10 drone damage or something like that. A little bit surprised to see this here out of Raynor. I'm not sure if he scouted the cyber core, but it's always very important info to know whether the cybernetics core is getting +1 or not, knowing whether it's going to be some type of carrier build order or if it's going to be like a mass phoenix behind this. These are good indicators. Raynor obviously quite good at scouting usually, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that he saw that there's no +1 being researched there. He's following this up with a very fast infestation pit. Okay, so probably going to be for a hive into a lurker then. We already see these range upgrades as well. There's a lot of roaches being built right now. The worker count is just a little bit pathetic for Raynor though. That is the one thing that I can't really give credit to Astrea for this. I was gonna say I want to give credit to that for Astrea, but Astrea hasn't done anything to that drone count. He killed 3 workers. He hasn't put on a lot of pressure. Maybe it's his reputation of being an aggressive player, but Raynor built, what is it, 19 roaches for no real reason whatsoever. These 19 roaches could have just been built after the drones and with a faster fort base, giving Raynor way superior economy. Now, of course, the eco right now is going to be good. The income right now is going to be good. The supply looks good. But Raynor does have a lot of units which do not really serve a purpose currently. A lot of roaches here, that's for sure. Hive is on the way, second Evo Chamber as well coming in right now. So we have the Hydra then being thrown down at the same time, +2 being researched on this fortress. We have a Robo Bay as a follow-up here for Astrea, who's just taking it slow at the moment. He's saying, okay, you're not doing anything, you're not attacking me, I'm just gonna go up to 8 gases at some point, get a couple of these extra cannons down, get these batteries running as well, and this is obviously a push that cannot happen. It's just simply impossible. 6 more roaches on the way here for Raynor. Surprising that more roaches are being produced. The roach is a unit that loses its value kind of rapidly in this matchup. Especially given that Astrea already is kind of tagged into Archon, Immortal, Sentry. A couple of Stalkers now being warped in. There's a Disruptor on the way. I'd love to see Gas 7 and 8 being taken here as well for the American Protoss player. But for some reason he isn't quite doing that yet. Yeah, Raynor right now with his Roach army wants to achieve something. But he's too high drone count to go for a kill. But he's also too high Roach to not get anything done. Like, there's so many units here that are just going to fall off in a minute and a half. If you have an army like this, by the time Astrea is pushing out with 180, 185 supply, you're in trouble as a Zerg player, that's for sure. It's nice that you're going to get the +2 upgrades, but yeah, not a huge fan of the position of Raynor here currently. Not a huge fan. Couple of lurkers are on the way as well. These are the first 5 lurkers. We have melee as a follow-up. Ooh, wait, melee as a follow-up? Adrenal glands as well? That is somewhat interesting, actually. Very different from what we usually see. Yeah, and this is the type of stuff where you need to do this with roaches. If you have 20 roaches, you need to freaking get rid of them, because they won't fight very well for you. They're not going to add anything in this army, really. Lurkers defensively being set up, roach flank coming in. This one Void Ray is dishing out a lot of damage and also provides a scout here. Sadly, will not be capable of chasing these roaches with the prismatic alignment on. Still a lot of lurkers remaining, though. And I think this roach attack actually is going to deal a little bit of damage. Maybe get like 6-7 workers, kill a cannon, take out some of these zealots. But Astrea gets to stay on the map. He's increasing his disruptor count. I'd love a couple of Vipers here, personally. Because right now Raynor is a bit of a sitting duck, actually. Does not have anything that can jump on this army. Double disruptor shots will take out one of these lurkers. Good play here out of Astrea is going to cut off reinforcements towards his 5th base. That means that Astrea is going to reset the base count here to a 4 base versus 4 base. And in a 4 base versus 4 base, Protoss players tend to be a little bit more comfortable than Zerg players. There's still no real way here for Raynor to deal any damage whatsoever. He has no, he doesn't have a Baneling Nest. I was gonna say he's getting these melee upgrades, but without a Baneling Nest, how are you gonna do any damage whatsoever? I guess it's just going to be pure links for the counterattack. So Reynor is burrowing these lurkers right now. Are going to get, well, kind of smoked here by these disruptor shots. More disruptors are being rallied across the map as the Viper still not being constructed whatsoever here. Big disruptor shots. Decent enough splits out of Reynor, but let's not forget that this is basically free shooting for Astrea. Disruptor purification novas do not cost money, so it's just a cooldown that you're waiting for. Even if they only get 4 or 5 or 6 Hydras, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but you can just repeat that trick in about a minute and a half from now. At the same time, this is a good cleanup here for Astrea. It's gonna take out 4 or 5 lurkers for basically free. Void Ray on the left side still holding strong as well. This is not enough lurkers to push into this army. There's a lot of stalkers here. There's a lot of immortals. Oh, there's no vision though. Where's the observer? Observer is with this army. Well, this definitely is not going to be capable of fighting this little squad that Astrea has set up. Lurkers coming in for a flank. Gets spotted by a probe though. There's a couple of cannons in position as well. Double carrier on the way. I really do believe that Raynor is losing this game. This does not look good for the Italian player whatsoever. 5th base is back up. 6th base also back up. Or, well, up for the first time actually. And he's going to get another cancel on this 5th. Carrier is coming in, and that's kind of the anti-air check that Astrea is making. It's like, hey, it's fun that you have a massive ground army, but can you also deal with an air army? Raynor does spot the fact that his cybernetics core is spinning, but I'm not sure if he's paying attention to that, because at the same time he's losing a lot of units to disruptors in the middle of the map. These links will help out in the run buys, and will take out a lot of crap over here. +2 is going to get taken out here most likely. That means that Banelings will never really be possible. This is an odd way of playing. Links with kind of okayish upgrades coming in later, while switching into lurkers at the same time. 193 supply currently here for Raynor. Still has a lot of these links alive. Don't think he can engage into, how many is this? 8 cannons? 8 cannons and 2 batteries. I don't think so. It's not really going to be possible. Raynor's going back instead. Gets an okayish split. Now we have disruptor shots trying to take out links. That's never really a good sign. Disruptors will get blasted by these Hydralisks who only have the +2 upgrades. As we see Astrea's army with +3, but the army apparently not strong enough. As Raynor is just really, really far ahead at this point. I cannot believe how well these fights have gone. Okay, here's the carriers. That could potentially be an issue. Still not a single Viper has been built in this game. That is surprising, confusing, and also scares me a little bit here. I mean, if there were 4 carapace, or if there were 2 carapace upgrades right now, this wouldn't scare me. But there's 0 carapace upgrades currently. This means that all these Hydras are not going to be trading all too well against these Interceptors. They actually basically have worse upgrades. Well, they have better upgrades because they have +2 done. +3 is on the way. +2 is on the way as well here on the cybernetics core for our good friend Astrea. Zealot in the main base trying to deal some damage with the Prism. We'll get the pickup and we'll need to leave right about now. The Fong Soul Brothers. As we check out this Prism. Being zoned away by the Spore in the, well, what was this? The 5th base? The 4th base? Well, 3 Hydras in the main base will hold. Hopefully hold the main. 2 Queens can always come to the assistance of the Hydras as well. Oracle will be moved out across the map. There's no Templar here, which means... No, there is. Holy crap, how did he do that? But even if Storm? Excuse me. Okay, so it's 37 Hydras against 3 Stormers, 2 Disruptors, and a crap ton of carriers. It's 7 carriers right now. No, 6 carriers. With soon to be +2. Right now it's still +1. This is still a scary army though to deal with for Raynor. Interceptors are falling pretty rapidly. Disruptor shots are going to connect with a couple of these Hydras. Storms are going to be available in right about now. Can we get some storms down? Maybe we can. Lurker count isn't big enough to fight all of these High Templar. Huge storms on this army. And a bunch of Hydras immediately go down. The +2 snipe would be huge. Because that means that these carriers are not going to be trading as well as perhaps they should in the near future. We also have a Zealot run by over here on this base. Spore has been taken out. Prism is still alive as well, so good control out of Astrea. Astrea lives to fight another day. Another Zealot run by heading towards the top side of the map, but Triple Queens are in position. I'd love a couple of Carapace upgrades being constructed right now, because without those Carapace upgrades, these Hydras are just not going to cut it. Vipers are popping out as well at the same time as the carrier count continues to grow. We're not seeing a Spire being plopped down yet, and that usually is the response for Raynor and for any Zerg. No, we do have a Spire already. Just a single one. Usually we see double Spire, especially if you have an eco of 86 workers. Astraea on a very low eco himself is just most likely going to max out with carriers, with a bunch of Templar. There's a lot of gas in the bank. Expanding to a 5th is practically useless. Okay, here comes Raynor. Can he get a couple of carriers? And a 1 and a 2. And a 1, 2, 3, 4. Takes out 2 carriers to start with. And at the same time, I think there was 2 lurkers being taken out as well. Oop, that's an Archon that will be blasted. There's 1 more Viper with energy left. These other 2 could go back home to try and get some energy. It's double Spire right now is going down, or second Spire is going down. Raynor in an aggressive position is not aware of the 5th base. This is an important base. If Astrea gets that 5th base up and builds 6, 7, 8 cannons there with a couple of Templar, that base will be set. And I don't think there's going to be very much that Raynor can do about that. A couple of Stalkers randomly moving across the map. There's no free supply, so reinforcements will not be capable of taking care of this. That means that these Stalkers will be capable of running away against these Hydras. There's no links whatsoever on the map currently. Ling, of course, the unit that usually has to deal with this type of run-by. They're fast, they're quick, they do very well with Stalkers, especially given that there's Adrenal Glands. Only +1 on these Links, of course, though. +2 on the Cybernetic score that has been rebuilt is once again starting. I love that he rebuilt the Cybernetic score in the natural. It's like, hey, I lost it once there already. I'm going to lose it a second time if you want to. Ooh, no cancel on this 7th base. Of course, not the end of the world. Toss only on 5. There's a couple of Hydras and a Ravager make their way towards the right side. We'll find this base and be a little bit disappointed, I think. Ooh, barely doesn't get that 1 Disruptor. Raynor still has 116 army supply as a single Disruptor. Should be capable of taking care of this Lurker at least. There we go. Raynor not paying attention and it will indeed die. Viper count is back up to 3. So one of them is full energy and the other 2 are getting back up to full energy. Good health as well. There's 1 Transfuse still available to help that 1 Viper out. 9 Corruptors on the way at the same time. This means we're going to be playing a Lurker late game over here. What's the carrier count right now? It's 7 carriers. 4 more Corruptors coming out. +2 and Carapace for the Corruptors. Wouldn't mind a couple of Spores. And we already have a couple. Wouldn't mind a couple more then. I can't see enough Spores ever. Also would love to see fungal growth, or sorry, pathogen glands as well as neural parasite being researched at this point. Here comes Raynor, and this is what Raynor is known for. It's being very, very good with these type of abducting armies. Oh, there we go. Archon barely not going to get taken out. Couple of storms on these Hydras though, as Raynor is going to lose a chunk of his ground units. There really isn't that much here for Raynor. He's 1 bad fight away from straight up losing this game and being down 1-0 against the American Protoss player. Now, no shame in losing to Astrea, but he is American and most Europeans do not enjoy losing to American players. They've been beating them up for so long, they don't know what it's like to lose to them anymore. Sometimes people like Neep and Astraea being real annoying. Interesting push forward here. It feels like Astraea kind of managed to just get in there. Lurker count isn't high enough. Nothing to fight the Archons right now. Still have 4 Lurkers, but they're on the bottom side. These Hydras are on the bottom side as well. Raynor struggling actually to stay alive. Without Broodlords, this type of army can be really tricky to deal with. Hydra's not really meant to deal with an army like this. Looking at Hydra Corruptor. It's going to be Lurker Corruptor. 11 more Lurkers on the way. I'm not so sure if these Lurkers are actually going to be finishing up. We have a lot of Disruptors moving towards the high ground. Ooh, a couple of decent snipes, perhaps. 1, 2. Only 2 go down, and a crap ton of Hydras end up dying to the Purification Novas. Astrea still super broke, though. Like, just extremely broke. Insanely broke. 15 workers going down on the side of Raynor, but he's still up in supply. He still has, well, it's really only 5 bases, and out of these 5 bases, there's like half a mining. This is basically half a mining base, because all these patches are mining out. Raynor's in trouble, yeah. Oh my god, we have another big engagement here. Can't really stack up all of these Corruptors right now. That's going to be an issue. Yikes. Yikes, 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 yikes. Raynor in trouble, not having the lurkers in position on that right side to stop the move through of the Archons. And once the Archons and the carriers get on top of the lurkers, there's nothing really to defend anymore, it feels like. Yeah. Disruptor still alive here as well, will help out against all of them. Lurkers, couple of Disruptor shots coming out. Do not believe that Astrea should continue pushing here right now, but Corruptor count only at 20 against 5 carriers. This is an engagement you probably don't want to be taking unless you can shoot some Disruptor shots here. Oracle is very important for that revelation on the Vipers. Allows you to feedback way easier. Oh, there we go. Another big updog, but a couple of these Corruptors will also end up falling. More energy is being taken away from the hatchery right now. So Astrea moving up to 6 bases, 65 workers against 37. And despite his relatively low carrier count, I just don't think there's anything that Raynor can do against this army. Raynor can't chase it because there's Disruptors that can zone out the army of Raynor. And the Corruptors can just fly over 8 Archons to try and kill these carriers. That means that the bottom side base most likely is going to get taken out. And with the bottom side base, that is literally all the mining that Raynor has left. A single Immortal run by is seeing the drones at least transfer. Do we have any more abducts? Yeah, we have one more here. Means that another carrier is going to get taken out. Brings us to a total of 7 carriers dying right now. 7 solid run by. We'll take out the final base, and I think that Raynor is actually kind of dead here, to be honest. I think that Raynor is actually kind of dead. He's gonna try to stay alive, but he has no income, does not have the army either. And without those things, I don't think he can do it. No income, no army, there's no win. At least that's what I believe. A couple of Corruptors are still here. We have +3 already done on these carriers, +2 shields as well. Yeah, GG gets called, and after a fantastic early game for Raynor and a fantastic mid game, Astrea takes the win in the late game with that Archon carrier composition. And Raynor down 1-0. And over here in game number 2, we see Astrea opening up with the greediest Protoss opener possible. So I try to zoom in on that gas, but it doesn't quite work. So we're on the edge of the map over here. This is a gas first opener. And that means there's not going to be a scout for Astrea. There's no point in scouting. It's just going to open up with a gas into a gateway. And this allows him to start mining gas slightly faster before he gets oversaturated in the main base. You only get oversaturated in the main base because you do not scout. So whenever Protoss players are planning on not scouting, they will almost always open up with a gas first in this matchup. When I say not scouting, I mean not scouting from a gateway or from a pylon scout. It is still very possible that Astrea follows this up with a cybernetics core scout or even a nexus scout is something that we have seen before. Most common though is the cybernetics core scout or the no scout whatsoever. This is a funky wall, by the way, that he's building here. It does not look super nice. Yeah. Yeah. That is not a very nice wall there, Mr. Astrea. The problem with this is if you put an adept in this wall, is that you're just not going to be capable of keeping anything out. If you think with a stalker here, this looks kind of funky. There is a... He might actually just use this as the wall. Should have built a cybercore one more towards the top and then get a gateway here and use the side. Yeah. He messed up the initial pylon placement. And also the initial, or maybe just the initial gate placement. I think you can put it one further to the left and then all is fine in the world. This one also is one too far to the left though, the pylon. It is what it is. Astrea. It's a relatively tricky map though to get the wall right, but as a pro gamer you should always have it correct. You should know how to wall on the new maps. The new maps have been out for a while, so I'm surprised that he made this error. It's an error that can be taken away by having good preparation. Now, of course, sometimes you just misplace the pylon. It does happen. It could be a misclick. You never want to cancel, lose 25 minerals. I'd rather have a bad wall than lose 25 minerals. Especially because most of the time it's not really that important either. You almost never see like a paling bust or that type of things. Well, tell that to Neep in the Home Story Cup game 5 versus Serral. Serral did a 2-base Baneling loss, but we'll keep that story for another time. I didn't quite see if this was a double chrono, but by the speed of this Adept, it makes me believe that it was a double chrono. Oracle's going to come out after the Stalker as well. Nah, I don't think these two Adepts will get significant damage here. I do not believe it, actually. It's going to shade in. Queen's largely out of position, but there's 6 links ready. Actually, that's 8 links. I can't count. Yeah, 2 Adepts will basically do nothing here. I guess he kind of salvaged the wall in this case. Would be really weak against the Baneling boss, though. Completely exposed pylon here, the one that's powering both of these gates. Don't think this is powering. No, it's definitely not powering this far right gateway. So there's only single power on that gate, on both gates. Adepts close by the 3rd base Nexus. As the 2nd Oracle is going to be saved up over here as well. Or the 1st Oracle is being saved up, waiting for that 2nd one. Going to go in with a double. Cool little move that we often see out of Protoss players, especially when they play gas first. Very cheeky timing you can hit. Twilight Council is going to be the follow-up. Relatively fast Twilight Council, and only a single gas being taken here as well. We'll have to wait and see what these warp-ins are going to do in the next 10-15 seconds. But if we see a Stalker warp-in... Ooh, 2 more gates. We're definitely going to see a Stalker warp-in as well then, right? This is going to be a very aggressive type of opener out of Astrea. Raynor so far, good movement with the Queens. It's not going to take any damage whatsoever. Needs to be careful now. Right now, Astrea could make a sharp turn left. No, it's not quite going to be capable of doing that. 2 Queens in the main base. Ooh. Also, very solid defense. Oh, these Queens actually moving a little bit out of position. Giving an opportunity perhaps for Astrea to get in here. How many Queens do we have in the natural? Once again, 5 Queens. Man, Raynor is so on top of this with his control. This is ridiculous. Has skipped the Spore for a long time. Now there's going to be an angle for the 3rd base. And this is going to cost Raynor a little bit. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 workers with 2 chrono boosted oracles from a gas first. I think that Raynor will take this, honestly. Has not produced that many links whatsoever. Would not have minded just perhaps like a, what you call it, like a 4 queen pool towards this general area and keeping 1 queen over here at all times. Don't think he missed any real injects. And we see a normal hatch timing. Remember that last game? I think it was or the last game, the first game. No, the last game. The first game was the last game. The Cosmic Sapphire game. On the Cosmic Sapphire game, we saw a hatchery go down at 550. I'm not sure why I speak sometimes. Ooh, 2 Queens actually gonna get taken out here. This is kind of bad because this is a very dedicated push coming out of Astrea right now. Oh, that really... It's just painful. 2 Queens? You can't really afford to lose 2 Queens usually if you're being all-in. Especially not if you're following this up with Quick +1 as well. Quick +1 is often a little bit vulnerable against this type of push out when you do not have +1 yet. And that means that the Queens need to win a lot of time. If you lose 2 Queens that both had a transfuse each, that means you're losing a lot of tanking power. You're losing transfuses, which technically is more tanking power. So what I'm trying to say is that Raynor lost a lot of tanking power. This Queen's also falling out. This Queen still has 3 transfuses. You should really pull this back. Cannot afford to lose it. Is going to lose that Queen. Now that means there's only going to be, well, almost 4 transfuses left soon. Another Overlord will get taken out. I think that's the 2nd one, or the 3rd even. 3rd total that gets taken out. One of the Overlords over here also got taken out, I believe. Ling run by happening as well at this moment, but Astrea in a fantastic spot and is eyeing that hatchery. Astrea up, what is it, 8 workers? Cannot really lose this Nexus though, that would be bad. Oracle's desperately making their way back home, but one of them doesn't even have the energy to activate Pulsar Beam. Raynor will push back these Stalkers for now, and it's going to get a lot of workers here as well. Sloppy play out of Astrea. It's not going to lose the Nexus, but it's going to lose 8, 9, maybe even 10 workers against this Ling run by, and that could have been prevented by just not rallying there yet. There was a battery over here on this base, and I think Astrea overstepped his, just overstepped a bit. Slightly too greedy in this case. That is really a big waste. Without that loss, you're already fully saturated on minerals on this base. You can start working towards a 5th base, honest to God. I wouldn't mind seeing a 3rd and even a 4th Oracle. And the reason for this, well, it's 2 reasons, really. 1, there is a Roach Ling opener, which means that with oracles, it's a great way to keep map control and stop your opponent from ever marching across the map. You need hydras in order to march across the map. And 2, this base is relatively low. So imagine a stalker attack over here on the 3rd base, and then a 4 oracle squad, when the queens are not here, can just target down this base very quickly. But Astraea has a different plan for it. It's just going to snipe it down like this. This is somewhat risky. Oh, gets a recall on majority of the stalkers. We'll lose 1 in the recall and then 3 more. That is, of course, still very worth it here for Astraea. But it also gives a little bit of momentum right now for Raynor. And now we do see that extra oracle coming in. And I really, really like that. This 5th base, there's just no way it's going to survive against the control that Raynor currently has. I just don't see it as a very viable plan. Yeah. Astrea can push this back temporarily, but links are too fast and you can't be at 2 places at the same time. There's not enough oracle energy to really defend this out there position. There needs to be a battery and a couple of cannons. Astrea is going to try. I don't believe it. I am not buying this whatsoever. This is going to cost him a couple of zealots and also the cancel cost of these buildings. Yeah. Good move out of Raynor though, and an important one, because his 4th base just got sniped. His 5th base is just now on the way. He can't afford Astrea to get ahead. Now Astrea has 2 choices right now. He can continue trying to take a 5th base, or he can go up to 8 gases by taking the gas over here, taking this bad boy and taking double gases on his 4th too. Switching into some type of higher gas composition would not necessarily be bad, but it would slow down the game a little bit, perhaps allowing Raynor back into it. But at this point, I'm not sure if there's enough momentum on Astrea's side to continually deal damage and eventually go for a kill. The scariest thing with the army that Astrea currently has... Oh my god, this base is gonna die. Oh, oh. Takes out a hatchery and it's gonna survive the Broodling wave as well. Very nice. Is it? Ooh, links as well. Nah. 18 HP. Very solid. Big Baneling run by. 5th base was pretty important right now for Raynor, as he's on 85 workers. It's going to be oversaturated on the 4th, maybe even some slight oversaturation in the natural. Yep. And in the main, no. So we have about 12 workers in oversaturation. 8 on the 4th, and I think it was 4 in the natural. It's going to be 8 soon there as well, I think. Well, actually, these mineral patches still have something. 100 and 325. Stalkers moving into deny the 5th. This is a good snipe. Needs a recall, though. Definitely needs to recall. Ooh. You can blink here, mate. Okay, you can. You definitely can blink there, mate. I knew that. A couple of oracles are out. And this is a very back and forth game. More action here on the top side right now. Base is not going to get cancelled. Raynor can't really afford that. He isn't that rich. Despite him having a high worker count, he hasn't really had the bases. His creep spread also been denied. And where in game number 1 it felt like the early and the mid game really went Raynor's way, this time around it wasn't quite the case. It really felt like Astrea has been in firm control of the game for, well, the past 5 minutes or so, ever since that initial Blink Stalker push. This base is not going to get taken out. There's a couple of gateways there. 6th base? Really? At some point you gotta wonder what the point is of getting more minerals rather than getting more gas. I really wouldn't mind a kind of like a fortressy setup here for Astrea. Just going up to these higher gas counts. He already has the good upgrades coming. Right now you're maxed. You should be working on the quality of your army rather than getting more cash. It's just not as important. Of course, having a lot of cash is important, but you also need to get good trades. And this actually is the point where for the first time, Raynor's army is going to start scaling a lot better than his opponent. The more Banelings in an army, the better the army gets. The more Stalkers in an army, the worse an army gets. The more Zealots in an army, the worse an army gets. I think we just lost like 20 Zealots in 5 seconds as a bunch of Banelings connected. The reason for this is that if you have 50 Zealots against 20 Banelings, the 20 Banelings are going to either force a massive split out of the Zealots or are just going to kill every single one. And they basically do the same against 20 Zealots as well. So whether you have 50 or 20 Zealots, it just doesn't matter so much. While if you have 80 Banelings, you can literally just move command through an entire Protoss army and win the game. Especially if that Protoss army does not have Storm or Archons in the composition. There is a high Oracle count with this, and that means that Stasis Wards can be thrown down as well. At the same time, 7 Oracles also means that this position is a lot more secure than it maybe looks. Oh, this is a big Ling Bane run by though, coming on into the 5th base. There already is an alternate base. Whew. Nothing is going to connect, but it's a very unfortunate Stasis Ward here. Means that actually Astrea needs to pull away, and he needs to do that quickly. There's not that much time left. Should realize that this is still here. Oh no. No, he's going to pull away in time. That's important, and that's good. There's a lot of links over here in this stasis ward. A couple of probes will end up falling. Baneling will kill 3 workers. Zealot run by over here towards the bottom side. Look, I love oracles as much as any other Protoss player, but 10 oracles, I'm not so sure how useful it is. Well, actually, is there enough anti-air here? Maybe the oracles can just straight up win the game if you go in here. I think there's not enough anti-air. I think they can just activate. There we go. Blink forward as well. Out of Astrea is going to take out a lot. At the same time, big Link Bane run by here, heading towards the top side. Will take out all of these structures, and the 5th base will get taken out. There's already an alternative base here on the right side, but this one doesn't have any static whatsoever, so it can also be taken out. Oracles are running out of energy, and without the energy on the Oracles, this army is actually rather small. Bile's not going to connect with these Oracles. No Spore in this base. Not a single Hydra out at this moment. 3... Ooh! Interesting recall. And a lot of the value of this army right now is in these oracles. But these oracles, they don't provide anything, as majority of them do not have pulsar beam ready. Couple of Biles going to hit absolutely nothing. DTs will perhaps keep this base alive, as there's no Overseer with this army. A couple of probes will get taken out. Very, very close game right now. 2-2-1 upgrades with the Adrenal Glands for Raynor against the 3-2 upgrades for Astrea. Astrea way ahead when it comes to the worker count. But can he actually mine with all of the workers? I think the answer is a no. There's some oversaturation going on over here. There's definite oversaturation going on over here. If we take a look at the income, despite there being a 13 worker difference, Raynor is mining more gas and only 200 less minerals. The moment lurkers hit the field, and they have hit the field, this fight is actually going to be relatively bad, most likely for Astrea. He does have nice upgrades, but there's no Immortals, there's no Storm whatsoever, which means that these kind of accessory units, the Hydras, the Banelings and the Lynx, will be capable of dealing a lot of damage. There's enough Hydras at this point that the Oracles aren't scary anymore either, as Raynor puts himself into a pretty good position here. I love this Zealot run by, completely the correct call, forcing a big chunk of this army back. I don't think you can actually trade cost efficiently against these Zealots with just Ling, Hydra, Queen. Oh, Astrea's going to pull them back. More Oracles moving in as well. I love this. Zealot, Oracle, Archon run by. Actually, this is just the entire army. I didn't quite realize that. Would not mind if these Oracles continue chasing these Hydras. That's indeed what they do. Zealots are chasing right now, so this base is going to get taken out. One of these Lurkers will also end up dying. More Lurkers coming from the right side. These links against the Archons is not going to be a fair fight. Archons absolutely splashed them to death. Do we have another recall available? We do not. This army is trapped. This army is trapped and dead. It 100% is going to end up dying here. Archons not capable of maneuvering through these buildings and will get kicked in the bum. There is a lurker run by as well towards this. Is this the final mining base actually? There's still some patches here. So we have 8 patches mining and then 8 patches not mining. Still 74 workers though for Astrea. Ooh, this bottom base also got taken. Okay, Raynor just needs to send it. And he needs to send it within, I think 5 to 20 seconds or so. Next warp-in is already going to be used for Astrea, who's floating 2k minerals. Does have 10 gateways. Doesn't have a lot of army though right now. Oh, stasis is going to create a bit of a wall here. Astrea should not be moving through this, surely. That was not a good engagement. G gets called and Raynor wins game number 2. I just don't think this is correct. Astrea has the time on his side. Can just send... can just send like a run by, like the next warp-in of Zealots as a run by towards this left side base. Could even potentially give up this base as long as he takes out this mining one. I think he's just going to be fine. Still has a bottom base going, has like 1300 minerals, 600 gas in the bank. I think this was a misjudgment here. I feel like Astrea believed that there was more pressure on him holding this base than there truly was. So could have used a super battery here, by the way. Did not do that. Well, Raynor, after a very scrappy game, is going to win game number 3. And that means that we will be going into the rubber match. We're here in game number 3 between Raynor and Astrea. As we saw Astrea go for a hatch block. Well, we didn't really see it, but I'm telling you right now, he went for a hatch block. It's very unlikely that Raynor decides to build the natural on the third base without any Q whatsoever. Speed is on the way as well. We'll have to wait and see what Astrea is going to do. A bit of a funky wall here. Pylon Gate Cybercore. That means that an Adept in the wall will not quite be capable of holding it, but a Stalker will do absolutely fine. Twilight has a follow-up as well. Now, you might be wondering what the reason is for a wall like this. And often the reason is so you can get away with a pylon at 14 supply and still block your opponent's natural. Well, if you do a pylon at 14 supply, well, you build a pylon over here, that's like 2 seconds that your probe needs to walk extra, and then you're not in time for the natural block. So it just cuts a little bit of that walking distance towards your opponent's natural, and allows you to save a little bit of money. So you don't have to send a second probe, or you don't have to build a 13th pylon, or any of that jazz that Tosses need to do in order to get the hatch block off. It also means, however, that you're a bit more vulnerable to Baneling Bust, or well, a bit more, you're way more vulnerable to Baneling Bust. Any potential early pools are harder to deal with. Think of a 16 pool Roach all-in could be really tricky. You're going to need a fast third pylon here, which you usually do not quite have the money for. However, we're not seeing Reynor do anything of the sort. This is Astrea's patented 2 DT drop build into a very fast third base at the 10 minute mark or so. It's going to drop with 2 DTs, get an observer across the map, and the main focus of the build is not necessarily to deal damage. The main focus of the build is to deny creep while getting a very fast third base up, and then transitioning into fast blink, and that can be with a Robo Bay, or just pure blink Stalkers if he wants to. Often we see DT 3 and 4 also being warped in, but for now it is just going to be 4 Adepts trying to fake a little bit of a Glaive Adept attack. We see a Spore already on the way here for Raynor, as well as a layer. Reynor did his preparation. Reynor is aware of what this is. He says, okay, I see 4 Adepts. This is going to be your fast third base build. And sees all of these Adepts stay at home. And indeed, here we go. Triple Spores on the way right now. 1 in the main, 1 in the natural, 1 in the third base. Against this build order, honestly, if you have a Spore in between, you could probably get away with a single Spore. It is somewhat risky, of course, if the Prism decides to drop into one of these bases, or you're not paying attention for half a second. Reynor actually tried getting a 4th Spore up here. It's not quite going to work out. So you see 3 Queens over at the third base. Only a single Queen in the natural, and perhaps that's a little bit vulnerable. Oh my god, wait! Bunch of Lynx actually managing to pass by the Stalker. I don't think that is supposed to happen there. Not entirely sure what went down. They must have just walked through, so the Stalker either wasn't on hold position or was on hold position, but not in the correct position. DT is going to get warped in here. 3 workers go down already. And we see, well, this is going to cost them 3-4 workers total, most likely. Oh no, we will micro in these workers. 6 workers. That's a lot of workers to lose. And it's not just a lot of workers to lose. What did I say was the main purpose of the build? It was to get a 4th or a 3rd base going while denying creep. Now the 3rd base is up, despite some probe losses, but the creep is still here, and that means that any potential push-outs that Astrea can do, if he can even make any push-outs, is going to be much weaker. Blink is already on the way. We have a Robo, we have a Forge, we have only 2 gateways. Any type of Roach attack that would hit right now would absolutely kill Astrea. No shot that Astrea would hold any type of 42 45 type of Ling Roach attack with an Overseer there. There's just not enough production. Look at the overall unit count. 2 Archons and 4 Adepts. It is just not going to cut it. However, that's not what Reynor is doing. Reynor is droning up. Reynor wants to get to a way higher work count, and he's getting the range upgrades right now here for them Roaches. I actually do kind of like that. I really do kind of like that. Oh, misses a Transfuse there. Definitely had a Transfuse available on this screen. Creep is staying alive, or largely staying alive at least. Is in vision of Reynor. Reynor does not have the Glial Reconstitution yet. Astrea too slow with the movement. Is not going to be capable of taking out too many creep tumors. Will just be a single one. Observer will stay alive for now, but there's a lot of creep tumors for this type of build order, basically. If Astrea plays this build order, usually you see all of the creep tumors just pushed back into the third, into the natural. Nothing out on the map, because there's no mobile detection yet. There's only going to be spores. So this is a great start for Reynor. He's building a lot of Roaches of 78 workers. Brilliant economy, fast forward base. He's getting even more workers right now. And he's getting a Baneling Nest. It wouldn't surprise me if he throws down an Infestation Pit relatively quickly as well. Second Evo, of course, a possibility too. Yeah, there we go. Second Evo first, and then into an Infestation Pit. has a lot of gas. That is probably on purpose. You want to have some gas left over in case your opponent attacks you, or in case you want to make an attack and you want to warp in a bunch of Ravagers. I have to wait and see if that's going to happen. Yep, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can we get 6? Did someone say 7? No. 5 Ravagers is what it's going to be right now. We have +1 melee on the way as well here. So Raynor wants to kind of get into those melee upgrades as well as the range upgrades. Eventually probably make a transition into Lurkers from this. So Ravager, Ling, Bane into Lurkers is the play for now. Second Evo is not really doing anything. Infestation Pit is kind of late, honestly. It almost makes me believe that Raynor wants to send it in the next 25 seconds. But his centrifugal hooks is not done yet, so can he really send it? He's actually playing kind of sloppy. Great early game, great start of the mid game as well. Okay, but he's playing this a little bit slower than perhaps he should. We now have an attack on the left side with pure Lings. At the same time, an attack on the right side with this Roach Ravager army. Archons are going to get denied their defense over here. We have this cannon being taken out as of this moment, and these gates being destroyed as well. Now, losing the cannon is annoying. It's 150 minerals. The gate is also 150 minerals, but it also impedes your production, so it forces the Protoss player to float a little bit of money usually. We have nothing here on the left side, but I don't think these Banes will be capable of doing much of anything right now. They're not going to be able to connect to any of these workers at least. Yeah, that's definitely not it. Good defense here coming out of Astrea. It's going to cost them a little bit of mining time, and there's plenty of money where these Banelings came from for Raynor, who is on 79 workers, 5 more on the way. Infestation Pit finally starting right now, and continuing to send it here over on the right side. We have a couple of Archons on the left. We'll take out almost all of these Banes. This Bane run by is not going to get the connections that it needs. Melee attack level 1 is about to finish up. Level 2 is on the way already. +2 range is also about to finish up. And I love this little change of pace. So continuously been attacking on the right side with the Roach army. And with the Banelings on the left. These Archons were waiting for more Banelings to show up. But these Banelings brought their friends. Their bigger brother, the Roach Ravager, is here. That's going to suck. At the same time, lots of Banelings moving in towards the third base. And Astrea not ready. There is a single Archon there. But I don't think that it's quite going to be enough. Oh, Disruptor is going to connect with some of these links. 19 probes have gone down though. Hive is on the way. 2-2 researching. Creep is still looking strong. And Raynor is most likely just going to keep sending it again and again and again. Rotates the Roach army towards the right side right now. Saying, hey, I'm just going to confuse you. I don't want you to know where my units are going. And if the Stalker army is defending against the Banes and the Archons against the Roaches, then that is exactly what Raynor wants. Uh-oh, Raynor actually coming in for a bit of a surprise here. Ling run by in towards the natural Zealot warp in is not in time. Roaches make their way in a sneaky manner towards the right side, as at the same time these Banelings are rolling in. Might not get the connections with the probes, but I don't think it's even going to matter. 193 supply against 113. Roaches taking out the cannon, Lynx taking out everything in the main base and everything in the natural. GG gets called, and Raynor with a 2-1 victory in this series. And I want to go back here to that early game because I want to see what happened with that with the wall. Basically, so Raynor decided to run by with a couple of links. Interesting decision to start with. It's not enough links to cancel a third base, that's for sure. This Stalker feels like it's in the correct position. Oh, he moved it back. Do you see that? He moved it back once he saw it happen. That is fairly odd. Moves it back. But it was in the correct position. He didn't trust the Astrea of the past to make the correct decision or put it in the correct spot. Then they recall in towards the natural rather than the main as well, which makes this defense even harder. Yeah, I don't want to say that the game ends here, but against a player like Raynor, if you lose 6 workers, give him full scouting info, and you lose all pressure on his side of the map, usually you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So yeah, that's going to be it for this series. Fantastic series, especially that game too. I'm a huge fan of that. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.